When it comes to furnishing your home, it's often more cost-effective to build your own. I'm going to be using a couple of wooden crates to create a beautiful and functional TV stand. What you'll need for this project is wooden crates, 18mm timber, a cordless drill, a router, a sander, tape measure, wood glue and screws, roller wheels, a paint and roller brush set, as well as stain and chalk paint. So this is our basic layout. I've got all three of our boxes that are placed onto some plywood. I'm using plywood at the bottom as our base just to ensure some more strength, and that's where we'll attach our roller wheels to. Once I've placed the boxes together like this, I'll secure each of them like that. For the countertop, I'm using some laminated pine wood, which will be secured to our crates, and I'm giving it just a slight overlap so it looks like a countertop. But before we can assemble, I'm going to router the edges just to give it a professional look before we can then sand and then stain and then paint.
Using a round over bit in the router gives a soft edge to the top of your project. Remember to move the machine in the correct direction and at a steady pace to avoid burning of the wood. Using a random orbital sander makes light work of sanding. Start with a coarse 80 grit paper and finish off with sanding with a finer 180 grit paper. Remember to sand the crates as well.
Now that I've sanded all three boxes as well as the countertop and bottom, it's time to paint. I'm going to be using a chalk paint, which is beautiful because you don't have to actually apply any primer. You can apply directly to the surfaces, which makes it easy and saves you some time. And then after that, I'm going to apply a water-based stain to the countertop and the bottom before assembly.
A paintbrush allows you to get in between the wooden slats, while a sponge roller takes care of the larger areas. Depending on the look you're going for, apply 1 or 2 coats of paint. To add contrast to the blue paint, stain the base and top using water-based mahogany tinted wood sealant. Apply 2 coats of sealant using a sponge roller, as this not only gives a beautiful rich wood finish, but also protects the wood.
Now that we've painted all our boxes as well as our countertop and bottom, it's time to assemble. So I'm going to use some wood glue and a couple of screws, but also I'm going to use a few clamps because obviously pallet wood is not straight. So I'm going to clamp front and back and then screw it all together.
When securing wood pieces together like the crates, it's always a good idea to make use of wood glue and screws. Cut screws ensure that the wooden crates are pulled together, while securing 3 crates into place.
Great. Now that our boxes are secure, we can attach the countertop and bottom. We're actually going to do it upside down to make assembly much easier. So we flipped our boxes right over, and then I placed our countertop facing downward. And now I'm going to place glue on top of the surface, which will flip back over onto our countertop and screw it in from the underside.
Clamps become your friend when working with wooden projects. Not only do they help straighten bowed wood, but they also help keep the wood in place while securing different pieces of a project together.
So now that our countertop is in place, we can apply the base over here. We're going to put down a layer of glue and then screw it from the underside, which is effectively what we have over here. And that way we won't see our screw heads, and I'll also be able to place our wheels appropriately.
When selecting screws to secure the different pieces of your project, make sure that they are not too long or too short. Ideally, you want the screw to pass through the first piece of wood and comfortably bite into the second piece of wood.
Now it's time to attach our wheels, and there's various options out there. You can either get a lockable wheel so that it doesn't move around, but I prefer, in case there's any dirt or anything underneath it, to move it out of the way. So I've chosen these roller caster balls, which I'm going to be using. And remember to use a screw like this, which allows you to screw it flat onto your surface, right? Wonderful. Now that our wheels are on, we can pop it into place, put our TV on and decorate it as you see fit. But go wild with the stains. There's different options out there, as well as the colors to meet your decor scheme.
Remember that with chalk paint comes the option to use chalk paint wax. This protects the paint and enhances the color.